In the next few videos, I'm going to be talking about burnout, how to avoid it, and how to recover from it if you're already in the midst of it. After watching these videos, how to take care of you. There's a quote that says, "The expectation that we can be immersed in suffering and loss daily and not be touched by it is as unrealistic as expecting to be able to walk through water without getting wet." And that quote is from Rachel Raymond. And I really do believe this describes the world that we're living in today. And really at our core, we don't think it's affecting us. The news, the social media, all the things that we keep hearing day in and day out, and then the things that are happening within our personal life and also our friends and family. In Hebrews 12:1, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a large and huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the ones that so easily trip us up, and let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us." And so if we're going to run the race that God has set before us, and that's different for everyone, we want to make sure things aren't weighing us down, and there are weights that slow us down, things that we're not even aware of. And so I'm hoping through these videos that God's going to reveal to you any areas that you need to be aware of. What is your weight? Are you doing things on your own strength, not setting healthy limits, not setting healthy boundaries, and not taking care of yourself? Because these things will add to what we're already dealing with as a society, and is really going to get you to a place of burnout or even compassion fatigue. So what is that? Burnout, which can inch toward compassion fatigue. And it can even become something called secondary traumatic stress. And physical stress-related symptoms will come from it. It is a progression of weariness that is characterized by the gradual lessening of compassion over time. And it has been described as the cost of caring. And some people may describe it as burnout, and it's just like a sense of deep depletion. We have to acknowledge that there is a cost to caring, which is in all of us, because we all care about the things we're seeing around us. And this is something we have to be aware of, and we have to manage it. Being aware is the key to keeping healthy in any area of our life. And especially in this one, it's not allowing the effects of this to overtake you. Compassion fatigue's root is directly tied to the effects of stress of helpers, people helpers. And this is where they came up with this word. But we have to think about what everybody is dealing with right now. Look at what we're living with everywhere. There's news reports. There's situations with our friends, with our family, within our churches, and possibly even in your own life. Life is hard and stressful right now. This is obvious in people who work in helper-related jobs, medical professions, teachers, counselors, and coaches. But realistically, in the world that we live in today, with all the problems and the constant news and the social media that we're all scrolling over every moment of the day, this has now become an issue for everyone. We are all surrounded in one way or another with images and things that are just affecting those that we love the most and are closest to us. And again, sometimes even ourselves. So we are in the midst right now of broken systems of poverty, of addiction, abuse, learned helplessness, death. So really it's learning how to navigate life while all this stuff is brushing up alongside of us. Because we can't avoid that. It's just where we are in our world today. There are times even our best efforts are ineffective. And I think this is where it really begins to hit us. That we're doing our part. Sometimes it's be a lack of boundaries and we're helping too much. And even in the results of all the efforts, giving out, doing for others, we're not seeing change. And this can truly cause a slow internal erosion. It's like a slow drip that just keeps coming out. We're not even aware over time that it's taking a hold on us. So it takes energy to walk with people in their stories, and we all do this. Again, it's not just helper positions. We have this in our friends and our families, and just like I said, this constant 24-hour news loop and social media. We're constantly being exposed to hard things. And over time, symptoms will develop. And that's what I want you to pay attention to. We're going to talk about what are some of these symptoms that we want to be aware of so we can catch this before it really becomes something that is affecting us. Over time, all this exposure to all these things will affect us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So I'm going to give you some of the symptoms of compassion fatigue or burnout. And I want you to make note if you're beginning to see some of these things. So one is going to be just emotional exhaustion. You sleep 8 hours and you're still tired. A reduced sense of personal accomplishment. Getting in places of just feeling a little hopeless. Apathy, just not really having a great care for things. Isolating. And just not having those high highs like we usually have. A loss of pleasure and a loss of enjoyment. And just the things we always love to do. A sense of constant stress and anxiety, difficulty separating your work life from your personal life, having sleep problems, beginning to realize that you're feeling very negative on a regular basis, a decrease in productivity, and an inability to focus. And then really even having some self-doubt or critical thinking around yourself. And this can begin to bleed into our personal relationships. And it can finally even go into a place of low mood. And it will eventually affect us both professionally and personally. So if you're really deep into this, I do want to encourage you to get some professional help. But I do want to also make you aware that these symptoms can be normal displays of chronic stress. And this is a result of overexposure to images, words, experiences, not just of our own, but everything around us. So it is important to check in with ourselves and take an honest assessment. And that will help us to recognize signs of burnout so we can self-correct and take steps to fill our tank. So these are the factors that place you at a higher risk of burnout. Number one, personality attributes. Certain personalities will have more of a tendency toward burnout if they're not careful. Low levels of social support. You just moved, you're not close to family, you have a lack of community. You need to ask yourself, who are my people? High levels of personal stress. What is going on in your personal life as you're taking on everybody else's? Your children, your marriage, your extended family. And then a previous history of maladaptive coping skills. So that just basically means, am I drinking too much wine? Am I eating too much? Am I, binging on Netflix, not just occasionally, but all the time? Have you worked through the pain of your past? Do you have unresolved trauma that needs to be taken care of? Do you feel triggered all the time? So take time to work on you. And then the last one is caring for others without practicing self-care. In my next video, I'm going to give you some tools to help you either avoid burnout or begin to get into a place of recovery and get out of it if you're already there.